Mario Kart has been around for quite some time now. There have been many different installments in the series so far, and they all bring something different to the table. Some have been great, and some have been just okay. But in this video, I'm going to talk about what I believe to be the most underrated and underappreciated Mario Kart there is. Some may think it's Super Circuit. It's a very charming game, and despite having flat tracks, they're actually pretty interesting. Others may think it's the original Super Mario Kart. It's the one that started it all and can still be fun to this day. While both of these would be fine picks, the most underrated Mario Kart to me is Mario Kart 7. The first reason why I feel Mario Kart 7 is underrated is simply because of when it was released and the system it was released on. It came out in 2011 for the 3DS, which was not nearly as popular as the original DS, similar to the Wii and the Wii U, and being sold in 2011, it was unfortunately the next Mario Kart right after Mario Kart Wii, which is argued by many people to be the best Mario Kart ever, or at least one of the best. So you could say there were high expectations for the follow-up to arguably the best game up to that point. Sadly, Mario Kart 7 did not meet those expectations, but let's talk about exactly why it didn't. When comparing Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart 7, these are two pretty different games. Both Mario Karts, yes, but two very different versions. Mario Kart Wii had bikes, a versus mode, a much better character roster, and an overall more fun and interesting experience with more unique gameplay mechanics and better tracks. And of course, it was on one of the best-selling consoles ever, and 7 was on the 3DS. The other main reason I believe Mario Kart 7 is often overlooked is because the new mechanics it added weren't anything amazing. Don't get me wrong, I like the underwater and gliding sections, but after you play through all the tracks once or twice, it doesn't really feel special. It's just kind of there. Except maybe on Rock Mountain, the gliding on that one is fun. But when you compare this to Mario Kart Wii once again, who introduced motion controls with the Wii wheel, which was a huge hit, bikes that could wheelie, and the trick system, Mario Kart 7's two main additions pale in comparison. Mario Kart 7 also introduced kart customization, where you could pick the vehicle's body, wheels, and glider, and you could mix and match any parts you had unlocked together. This sounded pretty cool on the surface. This kind of customization had never really been in Mario Kart up to this point, but being able to mix and match your own kart parts together seemed like a home run on paper. But sadly, the reality of this feature was that it was underwhelming. It wasn't necessarily bad, but it didn't add nearly as much to the experience of the game as I thought it would when I first played it. They also did not return bikes, which I was disappointed about since they were really cool in Wii. I can't really put my finger on it, but Mario Kart 7's vehicles just didn't impress me. I'd say Wii's and even DS's were much better and more memorable. So now that we've established why Mario Kart 7 still doesn't get much recognition, let's talk about why I think it deserves more recognition and why I think it is the most underrated Mario Kart. The first thing that comes to mind is the gameplay. So we've already talked about how the gameplay isn't as unique or innovative as other Mario Karts, but that doesn't mean it's not good. In fact, Mario Kart 7 actually feels pretty good to play. The karts are easy to control, they don't feel slippery to drive at all, the drifting is extremely standard, it feels fine, and of course you have the tricking making a return from Mario Kart Wii, and overall it's very basic controls. When you think of playing Mario Kart just in general and how it would control and feel, Mario Kart 7 is exactly that. As Scott the Woz once said, it's the most Mario Kart feeling Mario Kart ever, and I would have to agree. So the driving itself is pretty basic, but when you throw in the underwater and the gliding, that helps spice it up a little bit. Again, I'd argue it's more gimmick than substance, but I really don't mind it, and on certain tracks it can be enjoyable. The next reason is the Nitro tracks. I feel Mario Kart 7's Nitro tracks are underrated in themselves, and while they're not the best by any means, they are very solid. Tracks like Daisy Hills, Shy Guy Bazaar, Woohoo Loop, Music Park, Rock Mountain, Piranha Plant Slide, Wario Shipyard, DK Jungle, and Rosalina's Ice World are all tracks that I really like, and obviously you have what many people claim to be the best track ever in Mario Kart 7's version of Rainbow Road. I've talked about it many times on the channel, but it's just an incredible experience, especially racing on it for the first time, and honestly it's one of the only reasons people still talk about this game. Overall, the Nitro tracks are solid. Besides Rainbow Road, there's not really one that sticks out to me that much. It doesn't have its own version of an all-time favorite like a Koopa Cape or a Coconut Mall or a Mount Wario, which is unfortunate, but I still like the Nitros all around. I really thought with the underwater feature there would be some cool immersive underwater only track, and I mean we got Wario Shipyard, which is solid but not what I was hoping for. So while the Nitro tracks are pretty good, the area where this game really shines is in its retro tracks. Mario Kart 7 has the best retro track selection I have ever seen. I mean, you've got classics like DS Luigi's Mansion, Wii Mushroom Gorge, N64 Koopa Troopa Beach, Wii Coconut Mall, DS Waluigi Pinball, N64 Calamari Desert, DS DK Pass, GCN Daisy Cruiser, Wii Maple Treeway, Wii Koopa Cape, GCN Dino Jungle, DS Airship Fortress, and SNES Rainbow Road. That's literally 13 out of the 16 retro tracks that are either good or really good. The other 3 are N64 Luigi Raceway, GBA Bowser Castle 1, and SNES Mario Circuit 2, which are still solid but not great. In addition to having great retro track selections, Mario Kart 7 also actually improved many of its retro tracks, mainly with the addition of their new underwater and gliding mechanics. For example, normally on Daisy Cruiser there's a pool on the deck that was a hazard and you had to avoid it, but in Mario Kart 7 you could now drive right through it. Another example would be SNES Mario Circuit 2, where they put a gliding ramp at the end, which isn't a game changer or anything, but it adds a little more excitement to what is not a very exciting track. They made little additions like that to almost every retro track, which I really appreciate because it allows you to enjoy these great tracks from previous games, while still experiencing the unique aspects that Mario Kart 7 provides. And that is all the reasons why I think Mario Kart 7 is the most underrated Mario Kart. Yes, the game definitely has its flaws, the new features are a bit underwhelming, the Nitro tracks are good but not great, plus there's also no versus mode, which is annoying when you want to just play 1 or 2 random tracks. There's overall just not a ton of content in it. And there's only 2 battle modes in the whole game, so it really feels like there's not that much content in this game. But even with all this, I feel Mario Kart 7 deserves more love and should be talked about at least a little bit more. It's mostly the retro tracks, it still blows my mind when I go back and play it and see all these amazing retros it has. It's pretty nuts. Anyway guys, thanks for watching and let me know if you agree with me or if you think another Mario Kart is more underrated than this one. I always enjoy seeing your opinions on these discussions. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more Mario Kart content and I'll see you in the next video.